regardless, what I always start off with is safety. Uh, Safety for news crews out in the field used to be people would go out in the field with a live band, and you had to be in where you park it, how you set it up. You have to take tests to get qualified for that. All of that stuff is still very important. I mean, it is. You still have to take those tests, you still have to get certified with those live bands. But because technology has pushed it another way, and because now we have started to adopt the MMJ or the one band scenarios in a lot of stations, the safety has changed. You still have the live bands, you still have the test, you have to be very careful. But now you've got people going out where you can do sometimes 3-man crews with one person doing everything. So when you pull up on the scene, you have to realize that once you are assigned a story, or once you are called and sent on breaking news from the station, and you are now out in the field, you become the eyes of the your news managers, your assignment desk people, all those folks. They don't know what's going on out there. All they're hearing is maybe scan attack or getting information from social media or phone calls. But you're the one that's actually in the field, and you're the one that can hear everything and see everything. Somebody says they're getting a lot of feedback. And can you ask everyone if you're not speaking right now to mute your phone so it's hear feedback? So if you're not talking or anything right now, just mute your device. So now you've got, people going out, and you've got to be very thoughtful. I think that did it. You got to be very, very thoughtful of what you're getting yourself into. So you're sent to a breaking news scene where there's a house fire, or there's a shooting, or there's a hostage situation, or maybe there's a protest going on. One of the first things you need to think about when you pull up is, how can I safely gather this news? We send you out to cover stories. We don't send you out to become stories. We don't want anyone to be put in harm's way. We don't want anyone to get hurt, and we don't want any of the equipment to be broken or stolen. So if you pull up on the scene of house fire, shooting, standoff, some kind of protest, you should be thinking, okay, where can I park so that if first responders, ambulance, fire trucks, police officers need to get in and out, they can get in and out without me blocking them. And second of all, where can I park where if I need to leave, I can't? I mean, what if this fire gets out of control? And, they tell everybody to back off and get away. What if this protest, goes south as people start throwing bricks and beating up stuff? I need to be able to get out of here. So you need to think about that when you approach these situations with your vehicles, your vans, or whatever you're going in. Same in weather. We're very big on covering weather. And whenever weather comes through, we're going to send people out to cover it. So if you're going to, you're going to have severe weather and it's going to roll through, and you're going to put crews in place to, cover the weather as it comes through. If you're a crew or you're a one-man band or whatever, and, you want to go out and get video of the storm coming in and all that kind of good stuff, you probably wouldn't want to go out to a cotton field or a cow field or just out in the middle of nowhere, Texas, and pull over on the side of the road and wait. You need to think about, where can I get good video, but at the same time, if I need to take shelter, I need to be at a place where I can take shelter in some kind of good structure. That stuff you need to think about, and you think about it all the time. When you're out getting groceries, when you're out going to Walmart, when you're out with anybody, you're driving around town. Never covering severe weather. It's a good place for me to park. I can shoot good video from there, and it's got a place for me to take shelter if I need to. So I say that because, again, safety is the most important thing. We do not want anyone to get hurt. That is not the phone call that we want to get. If you ever find yourself in an unsafe situation, whether it be weather, breaking news, whatever it is, you should never call the assignment desk and say, hey, I don't know if it's safe here. I think I need to move. You should move. Get yourself out of harm's way. Get yourself out of the way of danger. And then call the assignment desk or your news manager and say, hey, it got really bad there, so I had to get out. I had to move. I had moved to some place where I'm safe now. I'm going to wait it out here. I'm going to see what happens. Maybe it calms down. I can go back to wherever it was, maybe not. But don't feel like you have to ask for permission to take yourself out of harm's way. Get out of the way, get to a safe place, then make the phone call. Don't be the person that becomes a story because you were too stubborn or because you weren't paying attention to what was going on to get yourself in a really bad situation. And at the same time, you have to be reasonable about it. I always tell the story of when I was working one time, we had a guy at the station. He came back to the station and he had this excuse. He didn't get any of the video, and he didn't get this, he didn't get that because it wasn't safe out there, and people started screaming and hollering and all this kind of stuff, and I had to get out of there. And so, we all took it for value. But then at 5 o'clock that afternoon, we watched the same story on a different station, and what he has described as a very dangerous situation. There was kids playing in the background while people were grilling hamburgers on the grill. Basically, what happened, he had dismissed himself. He didn't get there in time, or he went to the wrong place, he did something, so he came up with a very bad excuse for it, which burned him in the end. Especially, today, there's all kinds of video and other stations, it's very competitive. So, be safe, but, be reasonable. Don't try to, if you ever don't make a story or something for some reason, own up to it for what it is, and don't try to say, well, I had to leave because of this reason or that. So we talk about safety again because to us it's the most important thing. What we do every day is very important because we are telling stories, we're informing our communities. But at the same time, what we're doing is not worth getting hurt over, getting injured over, or anything like that. So keep that in mind as you go forward. Safety leads into another topic I talked about, which is gear responsibility. You are assigned a gear to do your job with, whether it be a car, whether it be a backpack, whether it be a camera, a microphone, whatever it is, tripods. That is your gear that you use to do your job every day. And it is your responsibility to take care of it. It's not your news operations manager's job to take care of it. It's not your chief photographer, your news director, your assistant news director. It's your responsibility to take care of that gear. It's how you do your job day in and day out. If you abuse it, if you break it, if you lose it, that's on you. And you need to take ownership of it. Along with this job comes a lot of responsibility. If you want to be an MMJ or a reporter or photographer, you're going to be assigned gear, phones, cameras, microphones, all that kind of stuff. And you need to take care of it. It's like anything else. You can't, I always say, what if, firefighters didn't take care of their gear or maintain it, or the same with, first responders, ambulance personnel. I mean, everybody that has a craft or profession has a set of gear they have to use to do it. And if they don't take care of it, then it's going to be hard for them to do their job. And it is that person who has issued that gear direct responsibility. Now, if you're in a situation where you share gear with somebody else, maybe you have to share a camera or a car with somebody on another ship, or you're in an apartment where there's 2 or 3 of you working, you have to share gear. It's on all of you folks together to share gear. If you break something, if you lose something, if something is damaged, you need to report it right away. You need to let your news manager know, your news ops guy, your news director, because that equipment needs to be replaced, it needs to be repaired. If it's not replaced or repaired, you're going to go out on another story, you're not going to be able to do your job correctly because the gear is in bad shape. Or the person that you're sharing it with, they're going to get sent out on the story only to find that the microphone's broke, or the tripod doesn't work, or the batteries aren't charged, and then they're the ones that have to, suffer for it. So you have to take responsibility to do that. If you lose something, you break something, you need to own up to it right away. Don't think, well, I broke my tripod today, or I lost a battery today, or did this or did that, or this cable's not working. I'll just tell them next week. Because what's going to happen is between now and next week, you may have one of the biggest stories of the year break in your market. And now, when someone's looking at you saying, grab your stuff and go, you're having to say, well, wait a minute, my tripod's messed up, or I only got one battery. That is not the time to be owning up to the fact that you don't have what you need to get your job done. Because now you're in the middle of a critical situation, but instead of being able to handle the situation and get out the door quickly to get it done, you're having to stop down to see if somebody's got another tripod like that. So you need to own up to it right away. Big part of your job is your responsibility. Just as much as shooting the story, turning the story, going to meetings with the ideas is your responsibility. Nothing more aggravating in the world for somebody to come in and turn in a really good story idea, or have some really good breaking news, and you send them out the door, and before they leave, they grab somebody and say, oh, no, I need this or that. That's not how it should work. It's on you every day, day in and day out. And if you do share gear with other people, and you notice that other people are not taking care of the gear, you need to call them on it. You need to, you can tell the operations manager or the news manager, but don't be afraid to go up to that person and say, hey, you were using this gear this morning and I got it, and it looks horrible and I can't find the microphone. Where's the battery? What's wrong with the tripod leg? I mean, you have to hold each other accountable to a point. and you need to be held accountable also. So you need to think about that going forward. Again, it's not your news operations, your chief photographers, your news director's job to take care of the gear. It's your job to take care of it. When gear is turned in for repair, a lot of times gear will break or it will malfunction due to normal wear and tear. At that point in time, it needs to be turned in so that the engineers, the technology department can fix it. Those guys, they know the difference between normal wear and tear and abuse. I mean, I've seen a lot of it, and it's pretty cut and dry. You can tell when, okay, well, this is just old and it's finally worn down and it's broke, or hey, somebody has yanked this or stepped on this or broke it. So just own up to it. It's the best thing to do. Take care of your gear. It's what's going to save you every day. You also need to know your gear. You need to know terminology of your gear. You need to know what an XLR microphone cable is. You need to know what an SDI video cable is. You need to know what a lavalier mic is. That way, when you're troubleshooting or you're trying to explain to someone, whether it's over the phone or in person, what's going on, you're not just saying, well, this thing will jig you messed up. That's not a very technical term, and it's not very accurate. You don't know what you're talking about. So you need to know the terminology. You need to know about how to explain a problem to either your news ops guy or your director of technology, so they'll know what they need to look for, what they need to fix. It's not very complicated. It's not like you're having to learn a dictionary full of words to describe the few components that you use every day. It's very simple. You don't have a lot of stuff out there, but you need to know the terminology. And you also need to know the gear. If you're issued a camera or a microphone and you haven't used it a lot, maybe it's brand new or maybe you're new to the business, practice with it. I always tell people, a professional athlete doesn't just play practice when they're playing the game. The firefighters don't just fight fires when they're actually fighting a house fire. They train. Professional athletes practice. Anyone that has any kind of craft, again, doesn't wait until they're actually performing the operation that they're hired to do to be doing it. If the only time you're shooting and editing is when you're shooting and editing for your daily turn, you're doing yourself a disservice because you need to practice. If you want to get better, if you want to grow as an MMJ, as a photographer, as a reporter, you need to practice day in, day out. It doesn't have to be on your free time on the weekend. It absolutely can be, but it doesn't have to. You come in one day, you pitch a story, and all of a sudden you've got an hour before your first interview, before you go shoot your story. Go ahead and grab your camera and go outside and practice. I tell people the best thing to practice on is sports, and it doesn't have to be a high school or a college game. If you can, tell your sports department you want to practice, helping them, you can. Sports is great because there's always action. Whether it's baseball, basketball, football, soccer, whatever it is, there's always action. You know what the goal of the sport is, either, score points in some form or fashion, but you don't know how they're going to do it. You don't know where the ball is going to go. You don't know if the hitter, is going to hit the ball when it's pitched. When he throws the ball, you don't know who's going to catch it. So it's really good because it's fast and it's action, and it's a good way to practice and get that stuff in. If you can't find, if it's not sporting season, you're in the middle of summer, just go to a park. There's always somebody, usually out in the park, kids playing games, people throwing frisbees. That's great stuff to practice on. Go to a park where there's a lot of kids. Kids like to run around and swing and jump and do all kinds of crazy things. Another very good way to practice. Go to the animal park. You got dogs, cats, all different kinds of animals running around in the park. Very good way to practice shooting, watching them running around. Going to a park where there's a lot of people or kids is another good way to practice shooting without identifying people, because you're all at some point in time going to run across a story where you're going to have to shoot the story, but the person doesn't want to be identified. So you're going to have to shoot hands, feet, or action. Going to one of those parks where all that's running, that's a great place to practice that type of stuff, where you're just shooting movement, but you're not identifying the people. So you should always be practicing. If the only time you're using your camera, again, is when you're shooting or editing your story, you're doing yourself an injustice. Practice, practice, practice. Take the camera home, come to the station. There's a lot of buttons on these cameras. And if you hit the wrong button, you can really mess your camera up. So you would much rather do that while you're practicing or while you're at the station than waiting till you get in the middle of the story and do it. And then all of a sudden you're in the middle of the story and you can't shoot anything anymore because you don't know what you've done to the camera. Or you've hit a button and now everything is blown out of proportion. It's too bright, it's too grainy, and you don't know how to get it back. You're trying to call somebody in the middle of your story to figure out what you've done, but maybe they're busy, they're doing something else, and they can't help you. Play with those buttons when you're at the stations. flip them around, play with the filters, do different things to figure out, okay, if I do this, the camera reacts this way. And if this is not what I want it to do, how do I get it back to where I need to get it back? Do that stuff in your downtime at the station. Practice, practice, practice. Don't wait until it's too late and you're out there in the middle of it, because your day will not be pleasant if you bring back a bunch of crappy, crazy stuff that you could prevent it just by doing a little footwork ahead of time. We also talk about technology. Technology is what's driving this now. What you're shooting with now is really no longer a camera. This is what a vendor told us about 2.5 years ago. These cameras we have today are not cameras. They are computers with lenses on them. That's what they are. They no longer have gears or heads or moving parts or anything. It's a body wrapped around a motherboard with a lens stuck on the front of it. That's where technology has carried us. A lot of that is basically because of these devices here. Back several years ago when these first came out, and people started accepting this as an acceptable screen to watch video on instead of a 55 or 60-inch HD TV, and they started accepting video that comes out of this camera instead of a big $30,000 or $40,000 camera. That really changed the way that we do business. That changed the vendor's perspective. They started making cameras smaller. Some can say more efficient, maybe so, maybe not. And they started making them cheaper. We no longer have to spend $20,000, $30,000 on a camera. Now we spend anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000. There's pros and cons into the large and small cameras. We're not going to get into that today. Just know that technology is what's pushing this. Price point is what's pushing it. The capabilities of the camera and the technologies that are in it. We can do some really, really cool things with these cameras today, because with this technology explosion comes the ability to go live from a backpack, or live from a cell phone, or live from a tablet, or live from the camera using Zix, or the FTP raw clips back to the station. Technology has changed this business, because back in the day, you went out and you shot a story. In order to get the video back, you either needed a live van or a satellite truck, or you had to drive it back. We've got so many more ways to get video back now. You've got JVC, remote contribution through the camera. You got remote contribution through Oasis. You have Zixi, you have LiveView. Technology is putting more responsibility on field crews, because now we have the ability to get more and get it quicker and get it faster. And the fact that field crews are no longer 2 or 3 people, sometimes it's 1 person now, and you got to think about safety, and now you got to think about all these other stuff. I mean, technology is really driving this industry more than ever. If you have a problem with that, you might want to think about the job that you've accepted, because it's not going to get any better. I can tell you a lot of what I do every day, and Tim Donnelly and anybody else that's in support on the Raycom corporate level, all we do day in and day out, week in and week out, is we look at new technology. We figure out, can we use it? Is it something that would look good? Is it something that would benefit our stations? A lot of the ideas that we get from technology, we actually get from stations. It's the people still who are out in the field that says, hey, I know we do this like this now, but we think we can do it better this way. So the station presents us with something that looks pretty good. We'll actually work with that station to test that technology out. We've done that several times. There may be some of you who think, wow, we got all this stuff out here, Videolicious and all this kind of stuff, and it's kind of overwhelming, and there's too many steps. Believe it or not, before we push it out to the station level, we do a lot of footwork. We try to make sure that a 10-step process becomes a 2 or 3-step process. There is a method to the madness behind it. We do a lot of troubleshooting. So we do test a lot of stuff, but we may miss stuff every so often. So if you think that, our 3-step or 2-step process is too complicated, you have a way to do it better, please let us know. We are open to suggestions. We want to make it easier on you, because at the end of the day, you guys are the end user. You're the ones in the field that's having to use it. So we want to make sure that you're getting the best benefit out of it. But there is a lot of it out there. Like I said, you got Videolicious, which is very good to be used, for the web folks. You can go out, shoot some video, take some pictures on your phone. You can edit it together real quick, put an audio track on it, send it back to the station. It's going to go into Oasis. It's going to go into your web server, so it can be turned around very quickly without anyone having to touch it or do anything to it, and make it to the web or make it to the air and breaking news. And of course, you got remote contribution. You go out, You shoot, you edit something, you feed it back, you never have to set up a live stream. Now you got the raw camera contribution to the camera. You shoot a bunch of clips in the camera, you connect it to the internet using an air card, and you can FTP those raw clips back to the station into Oasis while you're driving from one location to another to get your stuff back. That's very helpful if you're a photographer and MMJ that have been assigned several things during the day, because now you don't have to shoot them all, stop and edit them all to feed them back, or wait till you get back to the station. You shoot one of them, and while you're driving to the next one, before you start your drive, you pick which of those clips you want to feed back to the station, and they're feeding back to the station while you're going to your next assignment. So all this stuff is to make it more efficient and make it quicker. A lot of people, I've heard people say, well, it's just putting more work on this. I don't consider it putting more work on anybody, because the work still has to be done. Meaning it still has to be shot. It still has to be taken back to the station. It still has to be edited. We're just giving you a more efficient way of making it happen, so that your day don't have to be longer, or the folks back at the station, their day doesn't have to be longer. Giving you quicker ways to get your job done. Technology, huge driving factor. I know Steve Ackerman and his news director calls monthly. He's doing short how-to videos, and a lot of this is going to concentrate on video issues. It's going to concentrate on remote contribution. If any of you ever have a question about that, please don't hesitate to call me. I can walk you through how you do it, and I can walk you through the scenario. Video issues may not be right for every scenario, but it's right for a whole lot of them. Remote contribution may not be right for every scenario, but it's right for a whole lot of them. So not only when you think about the technology and think about the ways you can do stuff, you have to think about these are just all tools in your toolbox. And for different jobs you do throughout the day, you pick a different tool. So maybe you pick video illusions for this part of your job, and you pick remote contribution for this part, and you pick the FTP for this part. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. You just got to know when to use it, how to use it. As we talk about technology and your ability to do more throughout the day, we also need to talk about communication. If you come to the station and you get your assignment either in the morning, in the afternoon, and you go out and you never communicate with the station throughout the day, you just go out working on your own and blah, 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 and you come back, that's not the best workflow. You know, you should communicate with your news managers, your assignment desk all day long. If you go and they assign you to shoot 3 things, after you shoot the first one, you don't have to call them. You can if you want to. You can shoot the email to all the producers or all news managers or all news department. Finished shooting my first package, went very well, got everything I needed, moving on to the next thing. Or, you know, hey, shot this first package, shot this first video, it wasn't what we hoped it would be. I do have enough to turn something, but it's not as great as we thought. Because you never know, as a field crew, what's going on back in the newsroom. After you leave, they may have found 3 or 4 more stories, or somebody's called in a tip. And now they're saying, well, this is a much better story than some of the ones we had in the morning. So we need to find somebody that's having trouble in the field, or maybe somebody that's on a story that isn't working as well as we thought it was going to, and we can move them around. And if you don't call and check in, and they're having to call everybody, and it just turns into a mess. So if you're checking in throughout the day, they may say, hey, don't worry about this other story, or if you're having trouble getting this interview, or you're having trouble getting this video, and we didn't think it was going to be this difficult, we've got something that's a one-stop shop that is a better story and easier. So you should communicate all day long. You don't have to call them every time you stop at a red light. You don't have to call them every time you turn left or right. But, you know, check in with them 3, 4 times a day, just to make sure you're all on the same page. All right? Anyone have any questions about the stuff we've talked about? We've hit on safety. We've hit on gear responsibility and knowing your gear, practicing with your gear, not waiting until it's too late to learn how to use something. We've talked about communication. We've talked about a lot of the tools that we have to gather content. Anybody have any questions or at all about any of that stuff we've talked about? All right, if not, now we're going to start talking about photography a little bit. We're going to talk about what will cause people to turn off the newscast, and what will cause people not to like something. I attended an NPPA work session many years ago, and one of the sessions I attended was talking about your subconscious mind and your subconscious brain. And, you know, they talked about, have you ever seen something and you didn't like it, but you didn't know why? Maybe you turn to somebody and go, you know, I don't like that. I just don't know why. There's just something about it I don't like. That's basically just your subconscious mind telling you that they don't like what they're seeing or hearing for some reason. And that applies to newscasts and everything else. Um, if the eye sees something, if you shot a news package or package we put together, and the eye sees something or hears something that doesn't quite jive with what they're used to hearing or seeing, it will tell you, hey, I don't like that. You've probably all been in a room where you watched a story or been watching something and something happened in the story or happened in the package, and you'll look at somebody in the room and go, what was that? What just happened? When that happens, you're no longer paying attention to the story. And that means you've lost the attention span of the viewer, and there's a good chance they're going to turn or they're not going to catch it. So if you do something in your package, whether it be audio or video, that is so destructive that it causes your mind or your eye to say, what was that? I didn't like that. What's going on? They're no longer listening to your story, and that's not your goal. Your goal is for them to listen to it entirely and get the entire piece of it. There's ways around that. You can still shoot and be creative. I'm not telling anybody not to be creative. But you got to know how to be creative without being crazy. I always use the example of the Walmart parking lot. You pull up to Walmart because there's somebody who's robbed in the Walmart parking lot, and you want to get video Walmart. And you pull up way out in the parking lot and you get out. You as a person are standing there, and you know how your eye would look at that parking lot. You would look, you'd see Walmart, you would see cars, and you'd see people coming in and out and all this kind of good stuff. You also know that as, your eye as a person wouldn't look at it sideways or upside down or some kind of crazy way. If you look at the Walmart sign and you're in the end of the parking lot, you're going to look up and you're going to see the Walmart sign, and you're going to read it as Walmart. Your eyes are not going to zoom into the W, WALMART, looking across the Walmart sign. That's not how your eyes work. That's one of my pet peeves, to see somebody pull up and have a big sign outside, and they zoom all the way into it, and to do a slow pan or a pan across it, because that's not how your eyes work. If you're reading words on a piece of paper, that's how your eyes work. That's how they read those words on a piece of paper. That's not how they read that Walmart sign. Even if you walk all the way up and you're about to go in the door of Walmart, and you look up and you see Walmart, you don't look over and see WALMART, you see Walmart. You need to think about that when you're shooting stuff. The further away you are from it, think about how your eye sees it. It's going to see it as one whole word. If it's a big sign, as you get closer to it, it's not going to maybe see it as one whole word, but it's not going to see it as individual letters. So if you get a little bit closer to it, it's more acceptable, instead of shooting the whole word Walmart, to shoot WAL and then do a slow pan over the MART. That's how your eye works. Also, you're driving a car through the parking lot. So if you look over, you're used to seeing Walmart across the hoods of other cars, between cars, maybe even through other cars. So if you get your camera out and you get creative and you want to shoot Walmart, so you shoot it through the window, or you shoot it in a rear view window. You see a car there and somebody's rear view mirror, you know Walmart in it, you can shoot it that way, because guess what? The eye can see that. I'm not sure you want to crawl under the car and shoot it through a spoke of a wheel, because, unless people are, I don't know why anybody would be under a car in the Walmart parking lot looking through the spoke of the wheel unless they were trying to do something they shouldn't do. Most people wouldn't do that. So think about it that way. Think about how you can shoot stuff. Think about how your eye would see it. Think about how you would hear it. If you do that, that's not going to be destructive video. It's going to be normal video. It can be creative video, and the eye will accept it. And if a group of people are watching it, they're not going to turn and look at somebody else and say, what was that, and why did that happen? You also have to think about using your tripod. If you need a crash helmet or a seatbelt to watch your package because it's so shaky and crazy, that's probably not a good thing, because that means that people are not paying attention to what they're seeing. They're so crazy about, crazy stuff. My wife can't go see high adventure movies because the fast camera movement and stuff makes her sick. Same way in a newscast, if you're at home, if your video is so shaky and crazy that people can't concentrate on what they're seeing, then they're not concentrating on what they're listening to. There's some rules when it comes to tripod. One of the rules that I was taught is if it doesn't move, it needs to be shot off a tripod. If it does move, you could probably get away with shooting it on your shoulder. Buildings downtown shouldn't move unless something terrible is happening. So if you're going to shoot buildings downtown, Even if you're going to do a pan across a building, probably have it on a tripod because the building shouldn't move. You got it on a tripod, pan's going to be smoother. If you're trying to do it on the shoulder, it's not. Trees will blow in the wind, so they can move. But at the same time, you don't want to be moving, you don't want to be a nice breezy day outside, but you shot the trees off your shoulder, so now instead of a nice breezy day, it looks like they're in a hurricane. So, shoot trees and stuff like that, if you can, off your tripod. Now, if you're doing a wide shot of trees, you can probably get away with shooting on your shoulder, as long as you stay wide. But if you're going all the way in tight, trying to get a shot of those leaves blowing or that squirrel playing, and you're all over the place and everything else is all over the place, then once again, the video is so destructive that people at home can't watch it, and it throws them off what they're listening to. So think about stuff like that. Traffic moves, so it can be shot off either a tripod or your shoulder. If you're shooting it off your shoulder, make sure you stay wide. The last thing you want to do is try to shoot somebody behind the steering wheel at a stoplight off the shoulder, because you're not going to get that good steady shot. And that person sitting there in that car shouldn't be sitting there like this. Okay? So if you're shooting traffic, you want to do back and forth, that's good. If you need to get the tight shots of that traffic, the wheels moving, the people's in the car, all that kind of stuff, get on your tripod. Always take your tripod with you, because you never know when you're going to need it. The last thing you want to do is jump out of your car and think, well, I probably won't need my tripod. Get 50 yards away from it and think, man, I really need a tripod, but now it's 50 yards back that way. Always try to take your tripod with you. You never know when you're going to need to use it. You're always going to need it on interviews, unless you're doing some kind of group interview and some kind of big breaking news situation. Even a lot of times then, people will get together, and especially in a one-man band situation, and put their stuff on tripods. Keep your tripod with you. Make sure that your video is not so crazy and not so herky-jerky that it's going to distract the viewer from your show. Okay? Same way with nat sound. Nat sound is the same way. If you're ever watching something and all of a sudden the nat sound pop is so loud that it causes your dog or cat to jump up and run out of the room, then you've probably done your nat sound. Nat sound should be smooth. It should be blended into your story. You're going to do a nat sound pop. Let's say that you're doing a story about a group of people that are helping rebuild a community after it was destroyed by some kind of weather. So you go in and you're talking to people. Of course, there's going to be hammering, there's going to be sawing, there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on. That's great nat sound. That's what makes that story a story. You don't want to shoot that story and not have any nat sound, because if you've got video of these construction people working, but all you have under is reporter track and you're not hearing the construction sounds, then that's going to tell somebody that's watching, okay, I should be hearing that stuff. So nat sound should always be there. It shouldn't override your reporter track. It just should be good, steady, ambient noise that's always there. And it should be throughout the package when you're showing the appropriate video. I always tell people, back time your nat sound hits. Say that you're interviewing me because I'm out and I'm helping, and I'm going to tell people, I'm out here because I want to help this community play hockey here. It was awful, and we just want to help them with you. And after I say my last word, rebuild, you want a nat sound of a saw cutting a piece of board. Well, don't wait until my last word happens, rebuild, and then all of a sudden come in full volume with that saw, and then all of a sudden cut it off. That's not how nat sound works. That's not how the ear would hear that nat sound out there. If they're out there, they would hear that stuff going on. So you start blending that saw in under me as I'm coming out, maybe the last 3 or 4 words I say, you start hearing that saw real low, and then after my last word is spoken, revealed, then all of a sudden the nat sound kind of comes up, and then it kind of blends back down and goes away. It shouldn't just not be there, then all of a sudden it's there, and then all of a sudden it's not there again. And it's not the proper way to put in a nat sound yet. That is too disruptive again, and if somebody's hearing that, it will make them jump or jar them, and they will say, what was that? Oh, that was a saw. And then the next thing they get pay attention to that stuff. That's another one of these things that you can practice when we talk about practicing shooting and editing, not just when you're out doing your story. Practice editing stuff like that. Go out, find a place that's got a lot of stuff. Practice blending that nat sound in there. Say, oh, this is a good level for it. This is how I blend it in. This is how I blend it out. A nat sound hit doesn't have to be one thing. A nat sound hit doesn't have to be just a saw cutting a piece of board. And that sound hit could be a quick 1.5 second combination of 3 different shots with 3 different pieces of that sound mixed under. It could be the hammer hitting, the saw cutting, and the board hitting the ground. And you edit that tight. It doesn't need to be 3 seconds. It doesn't need to be 1 second of the hammer, 1 second of the saw, and 1 second of the board hitting the ground. That's not a tight nat sound hit. It is a nat sound hit, but it can be a lot tighter. That 3-second nat sound hit should probably be about a second and a half nat sound hit. Make sure you edit that stuff tight so that it flows and that it gives the story purpose. And when we start watching some examples here in a little bit, you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see what I'm talking about in these pieces we're going to watch, where the guys who shot and edited this stuff, that nat sound stuff flows very smoothly. It's edited very tight. There's just enough room to breathe there, but it's not too much room to breathe. So the story doesn't lose its pacing. It has good pacing, and it's there throughout the story. It never overrides the reporter track, but you always hear what's going on, and it draws you into the scene a little bit more. It makes you feel like you're there. When we talk about nat sound in video, we also talk about the point of view. If you go out to turn a story, do everything you can to tell that story through somebody who's being affected point of view. If you go tell a story about a new bus line, that's a new bus route that's being opened, and you show up and you have a press release and you regurgitate the information on that press release with some wallpaper video, buses pulling up, people getting on and off of it, and you get a soundbite with one person going, "Oh, this is great." I mean, yeah, you've covered the story, but you haven't told the story. I mean, in order to tell that story, look for somebody at that bus stop that's going to be affected by this new bus route. And maybe you ask that person, "Hey, tomorrow, can I come ride the bus with you?" And you call back to the news station. You say, "Hey, tomorrow, I can shoot a quick video today, and we can tease ahead and say, tomorrow, we're going to show you how this new bus route is affecting people." You go spend an hour with that person riding the bus. You mic them up. They're talking about how this is so much better, blah, blah, blah. And now you've told the story through somebody's point of view. You haven't just regurgitated information. You can do that in house fires. You pull up, there's a house fire. Look for somebody in that neighborhood that's affected by that house fire. That person might not even live in that neighborhood. Maybe they are the best friend of the person's who house burned. Or maybe they're the best friend of the person that lives next door. If you can find those people and put a microphone on them and tell that story from their point of view, you're actually telling the story and not just regurgitating information. You go to a city council meeting, you look and see what's on the agenda. You look around and you see, okay, well, this is the big 1 or 2 things that's on the agenda. You got the option of just shooting a bunch of city council video and then regurgitating what happened. Yeah, you covered the story, but again, you hadn't told the story. Find the people in that meeting that are being affected by what's being talked about on that agenda. Mic them up. Get with them before time. Have to talk to them. Sometimes you have to approach people without a camera first. Don't feel like you have to grab your camera and stick a microphone in somebody's face. You don't have to do that. Sometimes you do, but most of the time you don't. Show up someplace a little early. Look for people. Walk up, introduce yourself, start talking to them, find out who they are. Figure out, would this person be a good person to tell my story through, or no, this person's not that great, I need to find somebody else. Once you find that person, say, "Hey, look, I would love to tell the story, and you've got a great point of view. Can I get a quick interview with you? Can I put my microphone on you and just let you wear it during the meeting? Can I put my microphone on you while you run around out here and talk to these neighbors about this house fire?" That's where you're going to get your best sound, because a lot of times, if they're talking to somebody else, they may feel more comfortable than if they're standing in front of the camera like this and you've got a microphone stuck in their face. So look for the ability, and you're going to see that today in the examples we're going to watch. Look for the ability to tell that story through somebody else's point of view. Be transparent. I mean, we're not doing anything top secret. We're not, hopefully you're not Russian spies working with whoever that you might be working with. But be transparent with people. Tell them what you're there to do. Tell them, "Hey, I'm just here to cover the story. I'd love for it to have a meaning or a purpose. You would be great if I could tell you the story." Make them feel comfortable. When you're micing them up, describe it to them. "Hey, I'm putting this microphone on you. I'm going to shoot a quick interview with you, but then I'm going to let you go do your thing, and just talk to anybody you want to, and just, roll in the camera the whole time. Have your earpiece in, listen to what they're saying." That's where you're going to, get your best stuff. Be very transparent. We talk about being transparent in our newscast. There's no reason you can't be transparent when you're shooting your stories on the public. Some of the best stuff I've seen is done that way. Somebody asked the question the other day, go back to technology. Now, not only are you shooting the story to edit it for later, but now the station's going to call you because you're at this house fire, or maybe you're at the city council meeting. They're going to want you to do Facebook Live, or they're going to want you to stream. Be transparent with the people that you're there. If you're going to do Facebook Live of something that you're at, you're working with somebody, say, hey, we're going to go live on Facebook. I'm kind of going to be showing what's going on here. Tell them what you're doing. One of the best reporters that I ever worked with, he always told the subject of our stories what he was doing and how he was doing it. And it made them feel so much more comfortable, and we just got better stuff. And when I didn't work with him, I had to work with other people that would not do that just kind of put a microphone on people, or they wouldn't tell people, hey, we're doing this is why we're doing it. Those stories never turned out as good. We never got the good video, we never got the good reaction. So be very transparent with people. Even if you're doing an interview, if you're doing an interview with me in my office and you come in, say, hey, this is what I need, this is what I need to get, I'm going to put a microphone on you, I'm going to shoot you at your desk, I'm going to frame you from about here up, so you'll know how it's going to be framed. After I get the interview and stuff, I need to get some video of you doing other stuff. Be transparent with people. Go back to the Facebook, somebody asks, why are you doing a Facebook Live or a live stream? And somebody at the scene is being vulgar or they're being disrespectful. I mean, you have to be transparent. Sometimes people, if you'll tell them, hey, we're live, we're on Facebook Live, or we're doing this live, they may say, oh, I'm sorry, and they may be quieter or walk away from you. Sometimes that entices people to be more vulgar or more loud, so you have to move away from them. They asked, one of the sessions the other day, somebody said that we have to have the same constraints when we're doing a Facebook Live or live stream that we do, over the air stuff, meaning, if people are cussing or whatever. I would say that you probably need to treat a Facebook Live just like you would a 5 o'clock newscast. You can probably get more information from that on your legal department, but I'd say be rather safe than sorry. And be transparent with the people back at the station. If I was ever a photographer and I was at a scene and I could tell, well, this might go bad out here, the crowd might get out of control or something might happen, I would warn my producer or director, hey, be ready. If something happens out here for you to cut away from me or go to another source or be ready for me to move or whatever, do the same on your Facebook Live. Tell the folks back at the station, help me watch this because I'm out here by myself doing this Facebook Live. I'm going to be trying to do it, but at the same time, I'm trying to gather information and get other stuff. If you see somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing, or you hear a bunch of stuff being said that shouldn't be said, get in touch with me, let me know, or kill the stream on the station end. Ask for help because we're all in this business to help each other. But you have to be transparent. You have to communicate with the station. Let them know what's going on in the field. They'll let you know what's going on there, and let the people that you're working with in the field know also. When we talk about being transparent when you're doing interviews, if you're going to do an interview with me, once we're done doing the interview at my desk, if you're a one-man band, my best suggestion for you is to never leave your camera off by itself. So in other words, you set your camera up, you're going to interview me. Do everything that you can to stand right there by your camera. Don't set your camera up over here and then you come over here and sit down. Because there's so many different things that can happen during the interview. Maybe you frame me up and I'm framed like this and you're standing over here right by the camera, and then, okay, you start the interview and then you walk over here and sit down. What's natural, human behavior is, now the camera's here, but you are now moved over here, so people are going to probably do this. It's going to mess your framing up. It's going to mess everything up. If you stay right by that camera and say, hey, I got the camera set up. If you don't mind, look at me, talk to me, ignore the camera. Say, if I have to look at the camera and make a change every once in a while, don't let that stop what you're saying. Don't let that stop what you're doing. It just means that I'm adjusting the shot to make you look better or to get your audio better. Because most of the time when you tell somebody you're going to interview them, a lot of times one of the first things they're going to ask or say is, don't make me look stupid, or does this look okay? And if you tell them you're trying to make them look and sound the best, and then if you have to make some camera adjustments for them to ignore it, then that's fine. But if you don't tell them that, they're in the middle of a really good sound bite or saying something, but you need to make a slight adjustment, and you move and they stop, and then that kind of screws everything up, or they have to start over. So make it not awkward for them. Make it very normal for them. When they're done with the interview, now if you need to get video of this person doing something, don't ask them to do something they wouldn't normally do. If you interview me, when the interview's over, you would say, now, what would you do if I wasn't here? What would you be doing if I weren't here? Would you be sitting at your desk answering the phone? Would you be up moving around your office talking to other people? Would you be going downstairs to check your mail? You show up in the subdivision. You get the interview with a guy that's out in his yard. You shot the video with him. He tells you what's going on. And now you say, okay, now if I wasn't here right now, what would you be doing? Would you be out in the yard? Would you be cutting grass? Would you be sitting on the porch? Would you be washing the car? What would you do? Get video of something of that person doing that they would naturally or normally do, so that it doesn't look awkward or it doesn't look staged when you get back to the station to put it together. Make that person feel comfortable. Ask them to do what they would normally do. Try to make them forget as much as you can that the camera's there by talking to them, interacting with them. Again, a lot of times, sometimes you have to approach that person without that camera just to build that moment of trust or that moment of a relationship to make it go better. If you do that, I think your stories will be better. I've heard people say, I don't have time to do that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because guess what? You've got to shoot that interview. You've got to shoot that video. You've got to get that information. So you've got to do that stuff anyway. So it's not that you don't have time to do it. It's just a different way of thinking about how to do it. You can think, okay, I got to do it this way, this way, this way, and do everything that way. Or you can think, well, I can change my approach a little bit, because I've still got to do these things, but I can do them in a different way to maybe make it look a little better. Yeah, it might add an extra 5 minutes, but it's not like it's adding an extra 30 minutes or an hour, And at the end of the day, if the product is better, that's what you're shooting for anyway. You're not shooting, if you just go out and do the same thing day in, day out, and you come back and your stuff looks the same, and it's blah, 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 and, people are saying, well, what can we do to make it more creative? And consultants come to town, and they come up with all these crazy ideas about how to try this or that. If you try to get ahead of that, and your stuff looks good, and it flows every day, and you get excited about it a little bit. You shoot a package, and you come back to the station, and you're like, hey, you guys got to see my video. Or you edit a package, and you're like, you got to see what I've done today. Or you're doing a Facebook Live. You get a little bit more excited about it, and it makes the day go a little bit better. So little tips like that are going to make your day go better. And quite honestly, you might be in a position now where you're a photographer or you're an MMJ or a reporter, and that's not what you always want to do. Maybe you want to be an anchor one day, or maybe you want to work in a really big top 5 market one day. You want to do this or that. If you will work on being the best at what you're doing right now, no matter if you like it or not, it's going to help you down the road. If you think that the position that you're currently in is just a stepping stone, and you're not willing to put the time or their effort into it, it may be a stepping stone, but it's not going to get you where you need to go. I've known people who have basically used positions as stepping stones. I'm a reporter now, but I don't always want to be a reporter. I want to be an anchor in a bigger market, blah, blah, blah. They may make it to be an anchor in a bigger market, but when they get to a certain level, they topped out because they didn't put in the effort in the position that they had. They weren't the best MMJ they could be. They weren't the best reporter they could be. They were just, mailing it in standard day in, day out. Then I've known people who wanted those bigger positions in those bigger markets and bigger stations. They didn't necessarily want to be a reporter or a photographer or MMJ at the time, but while they were doing it, they put a lot of effort into it. They got very good at it. And they crawled the ladder a whole lot quicker. And it made them a better anchor. It made them a better presenter on down the line. And now that person is constantly getting phone calls. So this other person is topped out because they didn't put any effort into their job as they were crawling the ladder. I got this person that's put a lot of effort into it. They're in a position they're very happy in, but they're still getting anywhere from 2 to 4 calls a year. Hey, we saw your stuff. We saw you did this or that. Have you ever thought about moving on to a bigger station or a different market or something like that? So it's all about investing in your own potential. We can give you all the tips in the world. We can show you all the tricks in the world. We have all these WebXs in the world. But if you're not going to use them, you're not going to use them to grow yourself, then you're getting information, but you're just not putting it to use. So think about that. Think about being transparent. Think about when you're out shooting interviews. Think about how you can tell the story instead of covering the story. And how you can, I had a GM that used to say how you can use the ball, move the ball further down the field. Again, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is very basic. But again, if you don't know the basics, if you don't practice the basics day in and day out, then you're really doing yourself and your station an injustice. You got to cover the basics before anything else. I'll tell you what, we've been going at it now for about 55 minutes. Let's take a quick 10-minute water break. Use the restroom, grab some water, come back. I've got a camera set up. We're going to show a couple of examples there. We're going to talk about some more shooting techniques, and then I've got some examples that we're going to look at. So everybody take about, let's be back at about 5 after. Come back at about 10:05. All right? Quick break. I'm going to wait just about another 30 seconds.
Go ahead, Robert, KXXB.
Go ahead.
Are we going to get into any type of lighting, MMJ, one-man band type stuff?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do next.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Yep. Again, a lot of what I went through in the beginning of this is just the basics. Because, after all that, that's what I was asked to do in this class, is go over the basics and then get into some techniques. Still a firm believer, if you're not doing the basics or if you're ignoring the basics, you're kind of going backwards. Just after almost 10:06, so we're going to get started. So we talked about a lot of different stuff. We talked about some tips, how to tell a story instead of cover a story, how to be transparent with your viewers out in the field, how to try to shoot video that's not so crazy it throws you off. The very basics of any shooting technique is wide, medium, tight. Wide, medium, tight. If you're not getting wide, medium, and tight whenever you go out and shoot, then you're not covering, your basics. You should always think that when you're shooting something, am I going to be the person that edits this? Or am I going to have to hand it off to somebody else? Maybe you think today is the day I want to try to get creative and do some extra stuff. And that's fine. I think everybody should try that. But at the same time, you have to cover the basics. So if you go out one day and cover a story, and you decide that you're going to try to get creative, and you shoot a bunch of stuff, and you come back to the station, and none of it works, but you didn't get your basics, you kind of shot yourself in the foot. Because now you got a bunch of crap you have to edit together. Or you go out, and you try to get creative, and then you shoot some basic stuff, and you try to get creative again, and then you have to hand that off for somebody else to edit. Are they going to take the time to look through all of your clips to find the good stuff to edit to, or are they just going to grab the first thing that they see and edit that, and then all of a sudden the news director or you watch the story later and you're thinking, why didn't they use my best stuff? Is because when you shot it in such a way that the best stuff really wasn't easy to get to or easy to find. We used to shoot the edit back in the day when we shot tape, meaning we would go up to an area, we'd set up a shot, roll 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds, stop, get another shot, roll. The theory was we could go back to the station, take that tape, put it in a tape player, and play it straight to air because we were editing while we were shooting. You can still kind of do that with these cameras because if you shoot your shots and you import them into your bin, you can lasso them and drag them to the timeline and they will come down in the order in which they were shot, and you can mark your ins and outs and you can send it that way. So you can still shoot the edit. But be thinking about that also. When you're out shooting, am I getting my wide, medium, and tight? Am I getting everything that I need? Am I getting my basics before I try to get fancy? So think about stuff like that. These cameras, please don't put them in full auto, where everything is auto, where your iris is auto, when your focus is auto, and your white balance is auto. That's a nightmare because that means that camera, if it's in auto, it doesn't get a setting and it doesn't stay there. It doesn't grab a focus and stay. It doesn't get your iris and set. It means it's always looking for adjustments and transitions. So say you're shooting my interview and over behind the camera, you can't see it. I have big windows and it's a sunny day outside. So maybe I don't need to sit up the light in here because I've got plenty of light and it looks pretty good. So you set your camera up, but you leave it in full auto. And then you step off to the side, maybe you're not watching the camera and paying attention, and I'm moving my hands around and I'm talking like this, and the camera sees me moving the pen, and then it thinks, well, I need to focus on that. So now throughout the interview, the camera's going from focusing on this, to focusing here, to focusing here, and it's back and forth. Well, what happens in the middle of the interview, if outside a big cloud rolls in, it's a sunny day, but it's cloudy, and then all of a sudden my light source changes. That means your iris is going to start going crazy, or your color balance might start going crazy. So try not to shoot in full auto. Practice enough to where you can put that thing in manual, get your manual focus, get your manual iris, get your manual white balance, and you have full control of the camera, and it's just not going haywire doing its own thing. All right, think about that. Wide, medium, tight, full transitions. I've got my camera set up. I'm going to grab the web camera and I'm going to point it at the monitor on the wall so you can see what I'm doing with the camera. So it will be herky-jerky for just a second. My audio may sound a little hollow because the camera's going to point that way. I'm going to stand by and shoot this way. So hold on for just a second. Let me get this moved around.
What?
Hey, Clint, Robert here at KXXB.
Yep.
Got a question from an MMJ here.
Go for it.
What do you think about using full auto for stand-ups?
I would not use full auto for a stand-up. I can understand why you think you may want to, but are you thinking you need to use full auto in case you're walking or moving? Why are you wanting to use full auto?
Just because sometimes I've had issues with the stand-up being out of focus.
Yeah, he's gonna tell you what Zoom is.
The best way that I've told, the best scenario that I've seen for people that have a situation with them being out of focus, carry something around like a light stand that you don't have a light for, or anything that can stand up. It could be anything. And then when you're setting up your stand-up and you're figuring, okay, I'm going to stand here, or I'm going to take 2 or 3 steps here, then put that object, that light stand or whatever it is, right where you're going to stand. Zoom in, get your focus on it, then zoom out, and then walk over, pick that mic stand, that light stander up out of the way and move it. Now you are standing exactly where you got your focus. And as long as you don't go way over this way or way over that way, you're going to be fine. It's also a good way to get your headroom. If you've got a light stand or a mic stand, and you can put it all the way up, just as tall as you are, that way when you zoom in and get your focus on it, you know that light stand or that mic stand is your exact height, and it's exactly where you're going to be standing. That way you can get your focus, you can get your headroom, you can get everything. And that way you can feel confident that you've got the correct focus and you're not going to have to worry about the camera moving. Because what could happen is that you're doing that stand up and a ton of things could happen. A bird could fly behind you, a car could drive by, and if that camera sees that in the background, it might try to adjust for that. So that's really the best tip that I can give for getting a good focus as a one-man band. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Let me move around and get in front of the camera. So now you can see what I'm doing on the monitor behind me. So when we talk about wide, medium, and tight, there's a lot of people, wide, medium, and tight's different to everybody. Some folks, that might be a wide shot, and to some folks, that might be a wide shot. Some folks, that might be a tight shot. To some folks, that might be a tight shot. But always make sure you get your good variety, because if you're getting your wide, medium, and tight, your VO will look something like this would be your wide shot. Then your next shot would be something like a tight shot or a transition. That could be your tight shot or your transition. Then your next shot could be a little bit tighter, another transition shot. And you come back out to maybe a medium shot. Come back into a tight shot. You get enough shots like that until you get 40 seconds of video, and then after that you can do different things, try to get creative if you want to. But that's just the basic stuff of getting shots. Another thing is unmotivated pans and zoom. If I wanted to do a pan or a zoom, you might want to say, well, I want to show this office. So if I'm standing here in my office, the human eye would look, and then I'd look down to the rest of the office. I wouldn't look at it like this, quick, and I sure wouldn't look at it like that. That's, what you consider an unmotivated pan. But a good motivated pan would be something starting out to here, go that way. Anytime you do a pan or a zoom, it should be to reveal something to the viewer. So to me, an unmotivated zoom would be something like this. I'm standing here, I really don't see a purpose for that zoom at all. If I wanted to do that, I would start here, then I would cut to this shot, and then I would come back out to that shot, cut to that shot. But I wouldn't do one of these. I wouldn't do one of these. Even on the desk, I don't think I would do something like from here. Me, that's really more of an unmotivated pan or zoom. I mean, if I was going to do that, again, I'd do something like this. Then I would cut to my next shot, whatever it may be, back here. So be real careful with unmotivated pans and zooms and how you get your pan and zoom. Be careful with your wide, medium, and tight. Earlier, the question came up about lighting. As you can see here in my office, I've got these very big windows. So as long as I'm not going to try to interview my person in that chair right there, I'm good to go. If I want to interview somebody in this office, I say, well, I've got plenty of natural light. It would just make sense to set them here. So I would set that person in that chair and get them to turn around. This is the example I was using earlier where, let's say that I'm going to set my interview, then I get back over here. So this is going to be my interview. I set the camera up, I'm over there. So I tell the person, you know, hey, look to me and talk to me. But instead of standing there, then I move over here. It's going to be natural, just you know, the natural human possession, you know, to move like this as I'm talking to you. Now your framing's all out of whack. When you get back to the station, you've got an interview that looks like this instead of like this, which is the way you wanted it to look. So again, that's part of being transparent. It's part of controlling your environment. You know, it's just a good way to get your best video when you're looking for stuff. An example of, say, see if we can see out here. Okay. Say this is a courtroom. And say that's the door and the suspect's behind the door or the person's in custody. We know they're going to come through that door. So we want to get them coming through the door. So I may want to start out on that shot. And as the person, they open the door and they come into the room, then I could pull out slow and say they're going to sit down at that desk. That would be a good zoom and a good pan because you're reviewing something or you're, you know, showing the viewer something that they hadn't seen before. You could even go a step further and you know that when they come in, you know that that door handle is about waist high and you know they're going to have on handcuffs. So you're on that shot, the door opens, you see the handcuffs as they start walking, you pull out a little bit, they come in, they go over to the table, and then as they sit down at the table, you could do, you know, kind of a slow push back into maybe their face or whatever. I wouldn't go much further in that. If then you wanted to get tight shots of their feet or their handcuffs, you know, I would do cuts to shots, you know, their feet on the ground or their hands on stuff like that. So think a lot about those pans and zooms and how you're shooting that stuff when you're going. Trying to think any other stuff. You know, you guys asked a question about lighting. When I do my lighting session, I normally do it in person because it's very hard to do a lighting session over a WebEx session. But the best tip I can give you to lighting is you can light an effective interview with two lights. One would be to put one light right beside of your camera. You know, there's a bunch of different ways to light stuff. You can either blast it with light, use everything that you have, or you can use the normal light that you have around you. A good example is to set a light up right beside of your camera. So I got my camera set up, I've got it turned. It's going to be my interview. Go back over to sit down. If I needed more light in this room, more than what I have right now, for this interview I've got here, I would have a light sitting right beside my camera, shining right on me. And try to put it up high, try not to put it down low so it's blinding people. The higher you can get it, the better. And try to have some kind of gel or diffusion on it. If it's just a bright light that's just a light bulb, then that's going to be very blinding and people are going to squint. It's not going to be very well. But if I needed the light in this situation, I put a light over here. I take my other light and I put it over on the other side of the room, maybe over in that corner, and I turn it on and I don't shine it right on me, but I shine it so that the light is just catching the back of my shoulder. Not shining right on me centered, but you know, the light shining more back that way, and the fact that it's just catching my shoulder. What that's going to do is that's going to light the front very well, and since it's almost head on, I'm looking at it, I'm not going to have a crazy shadow over here, and since this light back here is not shining right on the side of my face, it won't cast a shadow over here. You want that light to get right across your shoulder, so when you get that focus, that's going to make that focus very well defined. It's going to make it pop. It's going to make it look very crisp. Like I said, I'm hoping later in the year we can do some of these sessions where we go to stations and bring people in. Because when you start talking about doing lighting, trying to do that over WebEx, that's difficult to do because I don't have you here. I can't set the lights up with you. I can't have you stand in front of the camera and do it. But that would be my tip for lighting. You can do a lot of very good lighting with just 2 lights, with one of them being right on the camera and the other one being right off to the side. Make sure you have plenty of diffusion. Also keep in mind the intensity. You don't want light to overpower something. So if you're lighting for something, the last thing you want to do is turn on a bunch of lights and then have the person that you're going to be interviewing move into frame. Because what if you've got too much light? Now you've got so much light on me, you have to iris down so far that you can't see anything else. And it's just me. What you need to do is get your person in place first and then start turning on your lights as light as needed. Don't light and then add the subject and then add light. And that way, if you need to diffuse that light, if you need to pick that light up and move it back 20 feet, if you need to spin it, if you need to move it around, you can do that. But you also always want to make sure that you're not taking away from your environment by adding too much light. And you can practice with that very easily and see what I'm talking about. When we get done today, grab your camera, grab a light, go in the room, turn both lights on, have somebody sit down, and you're going to immediately see that you have so much light on that person that you have to iris down so much you can't see anything else. Do the same thing, go into the room, turn the lights off, except for whatever ambient lights you have. Iris to where you can get it, and then start adding light as needed. You might not need to add 2 lights. You might not need to add a whole lot of light. You might be able to do it with just the top light. But add light as needed to get that best look. Just don't go in and blast it first. So that's some stuff that you can try later on that you can see real quickly how it's going to look like. Light kits, depending on what you have, they may be old and big and bulky, and they may not be old and big and bulky. You'll just have to play with them and see what you have. But, the stuff that we talk about here, the wide, medium, and tight, the unmotivated pans and zooms, don't be too sudden with moves this way or that way. Make sure, you get your good focus on your shots. Everything I'm doing here is in full manual. Another thing you may want to consider at some point in time is when you shoot on the bottom, where is it on these cameras? There's a way to put these cameras into, instead of doing an automatic zoom, to do a manual zoom. I would practice doing that at some point in time because you can see if I wanted to zoom into something, the fastest I can zoom in is the fastest that's going to let me go. But if I've got that in the manual zoom, then that means, sorry, on the front, now I can get a little bit quicker. So if I'm shooting an interview right here and the person reaches over to grab the phone and I think that would be a good shot, I can get into that phone quicker if I'm doing it manually than if I'm doing it automatic, and you can snap back out. There is still a little bit of a delay because a lot of this stuff is digital, but that is quicker than trying to do it automatic. Practice that. Another good time to have it in. But like I said, if you're going to do this walk, this guy's going to be coming in this door here. You probably don't want to do that manually. You're probably going to want to do that in automatic, so you can do a good, slow, steady push and pull on that. Any questions about any of that stuff we just went over? Again, it's very quick, it's very brief, it's a WebEx. But any questions about any of that stuff? Yes, no, everybody's good? All right, now, webcam set back up. So let's see what we talked about. Pans and zooms, control your environment. We talked about nat sound, how to blend your nat sound in and out. Transitions. When you're editing and you go out and you shoot a bunch of stuff and you come back, try to limit the number of transitions that you use. When I say transitions, I mean dissolves and all that kind of stuff. Remember that you're editing a news package. You're not editing a Kroger commercial. So it shouldn't have a bunch of stuff flying and flipping and zipping around the screen. I would encourage everybody to try to use the least amount of transitions as possible. If you shoot wide, medium, tight, medium, 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 tight, 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 so you can use all those tight shots for transitions, the need for transitions will almost go away. Some of the best packages I've seen haven't had a transition in it. Don't think that every time you go into or out of an interview, you have to have a transition. If you shot a cutaway or a shot to get you into or out of that interview, then you don't need a dissolve. Dissolves have their places. If you're doing a story and you want to dissolve into a sunset or a sunrise, that's great. But for most stories that you're going to shoot day in and day out, you don't need a lot of transitions. You should be able to shoot and just get in and out of that stuff with quick cuts and stuff like that. If you don't have any questions about anything that we talked about, what I'd like to do now is we're going to pull up some examples. We're going to watch some examples of stories that have been shot and put together. Several of the stories that we're going to watch can happen in any market, in any city across the state. One of them is going to be a breaking news story about fire. One of them is going to be a story about a weather event. And then we're going to watch a story about a meeting in a park. And then we'll watch one or two longer form stories. But as you're watching these stories, notice the nat sound. Notice the shooting, the wide, medium, and tight. Notice how it's all blended together. Notice how there's hardly any transitions and how you get kind of sucked into it and it flows. And it breathes, but it doesn't breathe too much. It breathes just enough. All right? What I'm going to do, I'm going to copy and paste the link here in the chat window.
Hey, Clint, Robert, KXXB, we got another question here while you're getting set up there.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about jump cuts? Because a discussion we had in the newsroom last night, I had a shot of a man reading a book, and then the next shot I had was a tight shot of his eyes, but it went.
Oh, I lost you. You dropped out.
Okay, so some people said that it was a jump cut because it went to his eyes, but he wasn't reading the book anymore. And then, or was it, I thought it was a transitional shot because it was a tight shot of his eyes.
Well, it all depends on what his eyes were doing. If you've got a man I'm sitting here reading a book, and you've got a wide shot of me reading the book, and then you got a shot of my eyes, but my eyes are no longer looking this way. If they're looking this way or doing something, I mean, that's not the natural motion of what he was doing. So when you're using a transition shot to get from one place to another, to make it not a jump cut, make sure, like, you won't want a shot of, a baseball player, a full shot of him out, getting ready to swing a practice, and then cut to a tight shot of him sitting over the bench, his hands doing something different that wasn't with the action that he was just doing. So your cutaways need to match the action of what you're shooting. Does that make sense? So without knowing exactly what shots you used, it was depending on what the eyes were doing. If he was reading the book, and the next shot is still of his eyes looking down that way, and he's obviously still looking like he was when he was reading the book, then that's fine. But if the next shot was of him looking up or looking over this way, or his eyes doing, then that's not matching the motion of what was happening. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because another thing is when you talk about crossing the axis. If you don't know what crossing the axis is, you walk into a situation, you walk into a room, you've got video of the man reading the book. Make sure that every time you shoot that person doing something, you kind of stay on the same side of it. So in other words, if you're shooting video of the man reading the book like this is the wide shot and he's reading the book. The next shot that you show shouldn't be from over here, because how did your camera move from here to over here? That's not how a human eye would look at it. So a shot you could use is me reading the book. So you got a shot of me reading a book. Then you could go to a tight shot of my eyes looking at the book. Well, that transition shot would allow you to take the camera and then maybe move it over here, kind of back to my right behind me, so you could actually show the book. You didn't cross the axis. You didn't go to the other side of the room. You didn't go to the other side of me. You just used that transition shot to get from here to right here with that transition shot in the middle. So when you talk about crossing the axis, another good way to look at it is say that you walk into a room and you're going to shoot a county, some kind of meeting in a room. First thing you should do in the room is decide, okay, this is where I'm going to shoot my story from, either the right side of the room or maybe the left side of the room. Doesn't really matter front or back, just left or right. You start shooting your video. I wouldn't jump from the left side of the room to the right side of the room back to the left side of the room. You could, in theory, start out with a wide shot from the back of the room, then maybe a medium shot of the speaker speaking, and then maybe a tight shot of somebody, the back of their head as they're sitting there listening or aside. And then you could use that as a transition shot to move your camera a little bit up closer to the front of the room, but still staying on the same side of the room that you're on. So when we talk about crossing the axis, we're just not talking about not moving from one side of an individual to another side of an individual. Same way with an object. You're shooting a car. You come up behind it and you're going to shoot kind of on the passenger back side. You shoot there, you get the wide shot, you get the tag, you get the rear view mirror. At no point in time would I then jump to the other side of the car and start showing something on the other side of the car. Now, if it's a car accident and the car is beat up, you could go all around the car with transition shots. Where instead of having, a bunch of wide, medium, and stuff like that, you'd have tight, 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 tight. Because at that point in time, people understand that you're moving around an object to show them where the damage is. But if you're shooting an interview or you're shooting a room where there's a meeting, there's no damage in that room. And most people, if they walk into a room, they're going to pick a seat and they're going to sit down in it and they may move around a little bit. But the human eye is going to know, okay, if I'm looking at this room and I'm looking at it from the back of the room, and then I may look at this guy sitting down and I may look at the speaker, I'm not automatically going to transform myself if I'm in the back left of the room, also to the front right of the room. I mean, you have jumped someplace that the human body couldn't possibly do in one shot. You got to have those transition shots, and like I said, try not to cross the axis. If you're going to shoot video of me at the computer doing everything that you shoot for me at this computer should be on this angle. You shouldn't shoot a couple of shots of me here and then take the camera and move it over to this side and then start shooting video from this side. When you've done that, you've crossed the axis behind me in the room. Don't cross the axis, stay on the right side. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and like I said, the eye shot, it all depends on what the eyes were doing. If the eyes were looking in another direction or doing something, then that could be considered a jump shot. But if the eyes are still in the same motion of like they were when they were reading a book, then that should be fine. Okay? All right, I have put a link over in the chat window. And if you will click on that link, it's going to take you to a YouTube page. You're going to see a piece of video. It's going to be about 25 minutes long. And we're not going to watch all 25 minutes of it. At first, what I would like to do, let me pause mine. What I'd like to do is watch these first two pieces. The first one is a house fire, and the second one is a weather piece. I'm going to mute my microphone while you guys watch it. I'm going to watch it with you. When everyone is done watching, unmute your microphones and let me know that you're done watching it, and we'll talk about it. So let me mute real quick, and everybody watch these two pieces real fast.
Hey, Clint, I don't see a link. Where's this link?
Over in the chat window. Do you have your chat window open in the WebEx? Where you can see people typing stuff?
Just found it, thank you. Just found it.
Yeah, okay, good to go. Okay, when you guys are done watching those two pieces, everybody chime in, let me know they're finished.
KAUZ is done.
Okay.
KXXV is done.
Okay.
WALB is ready.
Okay. KLTV, you guys still with us? You guys finished with that one? All right, we'll go ahead and start. Maybe they'll be finished in a second. Those two packages that you watched, like I said, those packages could be shot anywhere. The house fire could happen in any city, in any place, in any Raycom market. The weather event, it could be snow, it could be rain, it could be floods, it could be anything. Those two pieces were good pieces, not because they were shot by award-winning photojournalists or anything. It's because they used the basics, everything that we talked about today. You saw a lot of wide, medium, and tight. You saw a lot of tight. You saw a lot of transition shots. You didn't see that many transitions, but you saw a lot of transition shots, meaning cut edits. And the NAC sound and some of that was just great. I mean, the house fire, the way that between nearly every reporter track, even if it was just a quick blur of the audio of the something going on there or the scanner traffic, I mean, that's what makes the pieces move. You will also notice that both of those stories were stories that were told from somebody's point of view. They didn't go out and cover the house fire. They didn't go out and cover the weather event. They told the story about the house fire to people who were there on the scene who were being affected by it. They told the weather story by telling it through the point of view of people who are being affected by the weather. That's what you need to be looking for when you're going out. Because that's, like I said, it's going to make the stories, it's going to give them more of a personal touch. If you'll go back, you can do this while the WebEx session is open. Like, you know, the first, like on the fire story, the first shot was a wide shot. You know, it was a wide shot of what was going on. And then after that wide shot, immediately you had 3 tight shots with a lot of good NAC sound in it. Then after those tight shots happened, you have maybe another wide shot there, but then it goes to another shot, you know, another interview. If you've got NAC sound or you've got an interview, say you go out to the scene and you put a microphone on some guy and he's walking around, he's talking to a bunch of people. Every time you hear that person speak, you don't have to show them. As long as somewhere in the front, when you first hear him speak, you identify who it is. You kind of understand that this is a guy there, and he's telling people what's going on. He's talking to firefighters. So we see him right off the bat telling the guy, I got a buddy who lives there, blah, 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 blah. But then if you hear him again throughout the story, you don't really necessarily have to see him. You understand that he is somebody that knew the guy that lived in the house or a guy that lived close to the house, and that he's there being involved in it, and you kind of get how he's been affected by it. You know, the old say dog, see dog. You're doing a story about barking dogs that disrupting the neighborhood. The first time you hear a dog barking, probably going to want to see that dog to establish that it's a dog barking. But then if you show the dog barking throughout the story, every time you hear the bark, you don't have to see the dog. You could have a guy sitting on the porch who's obviously being annoyed by the dog barking, or somebody opens the door looking out the window because they hear the dog bark. You know what's going on. So you can use NAC sound to move it around throughout a piece to make it breathe. You can use audio from an individual around through the piece to make it breathe without having to show them every time. You know, don't feel like every time you hear somebody speak, you have to see them, or you hear an action, you have to see the action after it's established about what it is. Now, you wouldn't want to cheat it. You wouldn't want to have a situation where you've got a house fire and you've got NAC sound of really big flames, coming through a house. Everybody knows what that sounds like. But then your video is just maybe of a house that's smoking. So you have to be reasonable about where you use your NAC sound. You wouldn't want to be shooting a football practice at high school and you got that sound of this really big hit where a guy just cleans somebody's clock. But then, you're using video of two guys, bumping around a little bit, and you're still using that big walloping sound. So you have to, when you're editing, your ear, your eye can tell you what matches and what doesn't. And it's the same for the people watching at home. So we go back to the fire piece. So you see they cover a whole lot of his they show him at the front, then they cover a lot of his interview. And again, most of that is all transition shots, a lot of tight shots in this piece, and that's what makes the piece smooth. It's not, wide, medium, tight, wide, medium, tight, wide, medium, wide. It's a couple of wide shots with a whole bunch of tight shots, a whole bunch of transition shots. That's what really makes this piece smooth, and it makes it breathe. Where he's talking about I'm watching this piece as I go now, as he's talking about the wind, he's showing the trees moving. Just a really good example of this piece about, again, it's a good piece because of the way it was shot. And it goes back to what I said earlier, you've got to shoot the video anyway. So don't think that shooting or editing a piece this way is going to take you longer. It's not going to take you any longer. You still have to shoot that video. You still have to edit that video. You just need to think about your approach and how to shoot it, how to edit. And it all comes down to these wide, medium, and tight shots. Look at this piece a little bit more and see some more examples here. One of the benefits, and you could probably tell this story was probably shot by a two-man crew. And, you talk about the benefit of having a two-man crew and the benefit of having an MMJ. Of course, if you have a two-man crew, you got two sets of eyes. Maybe you can move a little quicker, you can get more information. But you also, in a two-man crew situation, you have to be concerned about, are you on the same page? Is the photographer on the same page as the reporter? Is the reporter on the same page as the photographer? So if the reporter's thinking, I'm going to tell the story this way, but they don't communicate it to the photographer thinks, I want to shoot it this way, and doesn't communicate it to the reporter. When you get back to the station, you've got two conflicting ideas, and it might not turn out great. Or if you're a reporter and the photographer goes out and shoots 20 minutes of video, when you get back to the station, guess what? You have to log 20 minutes of video. If you're an MMJ, as you're shooting it, you're thinking, oh, I've got this video, I can write to that shot, I got this, I can write to that, I want to write this line, so I need to get that shot. So you're communicating with yourself. When you get back to the station, you don't necessarily have to log everything that you shot, because now you know what you shot. So you take all that, you're logging in the field as you're going. So, you can be more effective or maybe a little bit more efficient as a one-man band because, again, you know what you got as you're going. You could pull up on this scene, you could shoot this in 10 or 15 minutes. If you grab those two quick interviews in that video, you can say, hey, I've got everything I need to tell a great story here and move on to the next thing. So there are benefits and there are, there's ups and downs to both being a two-man crew or a one-man crew. Again, it's just your mindset of how you approach it depending on what you're going to be doing as the day goes on. I thoroughly believe a one-man, like I said, this come from a market where it's probably a two-man crew, but a one-man crew could absolutely shoot this. They could absolutely shoot it. They could pull it up on the scene. They could see that guy talking, put the microphone on him, let him go while they're shooting other stuff. In the meantime, they're getting all that sound. They've got their earpiece in, so they know what they're getting, and then grab the quick interview with a homeowner. Boom, bam, you're out 10, 15 minutes. One person could do this just as easy as a two-man crew could do this if you've got the right frame of mind when you pull up on it, you know what you're looking for. So in the next story, the weather story, you're going to see a lot of the same technique, a lot of the same quick shots, a lot of the transition shots, not a whole lot of dissolves. You're going to see the same technique in the weather story, excuse me, that you saw in the house fire story. Again, it's not a good story because it was shot by some award-winning photographer. That award-winning photographer is doing really good because he knows the basics. He knows wide, medium, tight, wide, medium, tight. He knows how to get into and out of a shot, and that's what they're doing every day. They're shooting video, capturing audio just like anybody else. They're just making sure they have the basics. I mean, you'll notice this car scene, all the video that he shot, you'll notice that he stayed in one spot and shot nearly every one of them. He pulled up in front of the car and got off on the shoulder, got away from traffic, and nearly every shot that he shot of that car being on the side of the road, if you will watch it, is almost shot from the same position. Probably never really took his camera off the tripod. Somebody walked over and put a microphone on the guy so they could get some sound with him, or probably went over and put the mic on him beforehand while he was waiting on the tow truck. But, you know, there wasn't a lot of moving around. There wasn't a lot of stuff. I mean, again, it didn't take a long time to shoot this. He shot it very quick, very efficient. The reason it was quick and efficient is because of the mindset that he had of how to get it shot. And you'll notice too, a lot of technique that a lot of these folks use in these stories is they will start the story with somebody and they'll come back and end the story with the same person. A good example of this in the weather story. And that doesn't have to be done every time, but some people feel like that gives the story a beginning and an ending. You started out with a guy on the side of the road, then you tell a little bit of his story, then you move to, you know, some of the other weather shots, you move to the woman who's having to walk to work, and then you end it with a guy on the side of the road finally getting, you know, the tow truck there to get him out of the ditch. Some people prefer that, some people don't, but you may see that a lot of times because, as I said, a lot of people, especially this reporter, he does a lot of it. He feels like he gives his story a beginning and an ending with some filler in the middle. You'll also notice, you know, he doesn't have a lot of track in his story. That's what we were talking about earlier, making sure that it's being told from the point of view of somebody that's being affected by it. His track is just enough in the story to give it what it needs, to give it the little bit of meat that it needs, but he lets the story kind of tell itself. All right, the next story that's in sequence here is going to be, I think it's called Topless in the Park. So I'll get you guys, we'll mute, and then we'll watch that one, and then we'll talk about it after. Crew or photographer, reporter, who had to go out, and you'll see as the story goes, you know, if you're assigned the story, you think, how am I going to shoot this story? Because it's obvious they're not going to be able to show everything that's going on, but they had a very creative way of doing it, and this is where it gets back to practice and stuff. So I'll mute my microphone, go ahead and watch this next story, and then let's pause it after this next one. All right, when everybody wraps up with that piece, let me know.
KXHV is done.
Okay.
WALB is ready.
Okay.
AUZ is done.
All right. So again, that was a difficult story to shoot. Of course, they couldn't show everything that was happening in the park that day, but they still found a very creative way to show it. And a lot of that was just through practice. You saw the same thing there you saw in the first two pieces. Wide, medium, tight, transitions, transition shots, not a lot of dissolve, not a lot of transition effects, but a lot of tight shots to get you from one place to another. They had nat sounds sprinkled throughout the whole thing, just to make it move and make it flow. Again, that story was a story that probably was shot in maybe 20, 30 minutes. They did not put 2 or 3 days into it, 2 or 3 hours into it. It's a story, depending on what community you live in, you could cover any number of events along those lines in the park that you're in. So it's another good example of anything that could happen in any community. Good story, moved quickly, good shot composition, very good with the basics. The next story is a story about a guy that builds a lemonade stand. You can go back and watch that one later. What I'd like you to do is skip the story about the lemonade stand, just fast forward a little bit until you see the story about the old man riding the scooter. That doesn't start out with him riding the scooter. It starts out with a shot, maybe like over an interstate bridge, where it talks about fast pace. This is going to be a longer format story. You can tell that it wasn't shot in a couple hours, maybe not even a day, but it's a really good story, really good examples of nat sound. And again, it's a good story, not because it was shot over a long period of time or anything, just because you're going to see a lot of the basics that we've been harping on all day long. Wide, medium, tight, wide, medium, tight. So skip past the lemonade, go to the scooters, and we'll talk about it when it's done. And then after that, we'll wrap up. We're pushing right at 2 hours right now. And it's a little over piece, but I'll wait everybody to chime in when they're finished.
WNLB is ready.
Okay.
I feel like you would.
KEZ is done. KXXB is done.
Okay. So that's a little bit longer piece. I mean, you can tell it wasn't shot in one day. It was shot over, maybe even 2-3 days. Again, it's a good story because of the shot composition, the wide, medium, and tight, telling the story. Good use of that sound there. I mean, you heard the moped going when it was supposed to be going all the time, and every once in a while between reporter track, they'd just crank it up and drop it down a little bit. So don't think that a nat sound hit has to be some kind of deliberate action. You saw there that a nat sound hit can be just nat sound, just to break up a reporter track. You notice that some of those quick interviews, especially, somebody was asking about lighting earlier. Some of those quick interviews, especially the interviews they shot in the cycle shop when we had the flats, I mean, they were shooting it as it happened. And I mean, that's real. So unless you're doing a sit-down interview or something like that with somebody, don't feel that you have to have perfect lighting every time. As long as you can capture the moment and it's not crazy, something terrible looking, the viewer will accept that because they've come to accept stuff shot like that, especially on smaller devices. So don't think, when you go into that cycle shop to get video and fixing that motorcycle, that you got to go in there and set up 3, 4, 5 lights. Just go in and capture what you can. A lot of that is going to come with you got to be familiar with the camera. In a situation like that, you're going to have to know how to adjust your iris. You're going to have to know how to adjust your focus. If you're letting the camera trying to do auto everything in a situation like that, then that video might not turn out as well or as good as it could. But if you know how to manipulate your iris and your focus in a very low light situation like that, where you're shooting stuff real quick, you can get that video. You're not always going to have perfect lighting. So again, don't feel like you got to have that perfect lighting in every situation unless you're sitting somebody down. That interview with him in that shop, getting that bicycle or that moped fixed, would not be acceptable in an environment like I am now if you were interviewing me in here. It would, that's not something that's just happening as it's going. That's something where you want to interview somebody with purpose. In that situation, you're just capturing the action as it happens. And a lot of times you'll see stuff, and a lot of these pieces that are shot like that, where maybe the shot's not framed just as great, or maybe the focus isn't just perfect, or maybe the lighting is just not great off, but as long as the action that you're showing or the nat sound that you're hearing overpowers the fact that maybe the shot just hit quite perfect, then that's fine. The nat sound doesn't have to be perfect. The shot doesn't have to be perfect, not every time. It's the action that you're looking for. It's the ability to use that piece of video and that piece of audio to tell the story. That's what you're looking for. Now, you can't just go shoot a bunch of nat sound and a bunch of out of focus and stuff like that. That's not acceptable. But if you watch some more of these pieces on this reel, because this is about 25 minutes long, you don't have to watch it today, watch it in your downtime, you will see stuff like that, and you will kind of see, oh, well, yeah, you can get away with this and get away with that. Don't think that you have to be perfect every time, because you don't. What you're there to do is tell the story. You're shooting news. Again, you're not a production company. You're not shooting a planned out commercial or a Kroger commercial. You're not a movie company. You're not shooting the next Avengers movie. You're capturing something that's happening real, day in and day out, and you're capturing as it happens. And you're not in a position where you say, all right, take 2 or take 3 or take 4. So don't think about yourself as a production company shooting a commercial. You are an MMJ, you are a journalist, and you are covering the news, and you can capture it as you can, knowing how to use that camera, knowing how to use that iris, that focus to get that good sound. That's going to give you the ability to get the usable stuff in a not so great situation, or not perfect situation. Any questions about any of that? Any more questions about stuff, the situation you guys? You've had some good questions about lighting. You had some good questions about, is this a jump cut? Is that? Any other questions, anything like that before we wrap up? Anything you want to discuss that we saw in any of these pieces? All right. If you don't have anything, but you want to reach out to me earlier, maybe you're in a hurry to get out the door, feel free to call me. Feel free to email me. Again, my name's Clint Moore. I'm the Corporate News Operations Manager at Raycom. You can find me in the corporate address book. My actual email address is clintmoore@rayconmedia.com, not Seymour. There's another Seymour someplace in the company. So I am clintmoore@rayconmedia.com. One thing that I would ask those of you that have sat through the meeting today, I'm looking for feedback on these because we just started these. Last year when I did these were a day or 2 day sessions at a station. And I have taken a day and a half session and tried to condense it into 2 or 3 hours, which has been quite challenging. So I need to know, did you get good stuff out of this today? Was this worth your time? Was one part of it better than the other? Did I skip over some of it? Did I spend too much time here, not enough time there? You don't have to write a perfect book report. You don't have to have it checked for grammar, punctuation. If you will just write down some thoughts, give it to your news manager, and if I can ask that news manager just simply regurgitate that stuff to me, it doesn't have to put in any kind of pretty form or script. I'm just looking for raw feedback, and I'm looking for honest feedback, how I can make these better, more efficient. Maybe I need to add something, maybe I need to drop something as we go along. If you guys can send me that stuff, that would really help me out and hopefully make these sessions more beneficial as we go along. I think that everybody could have got something out of these today, no matter what your level of expertise, because it's good to talk about, shot composition and lighting and stuff, but it's good every once in a while just to go back and talk about the basics too. So if there's nothing else, if there's no questions, you guys go out, enjoy the rest of your day, whatever your day has in front of you, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Clint.
All right.
Thanks, Clint.
Thanks, Clint.